am J. Lawark, and we are here. We're Agustín Cordes, and we are here with another video game profiles. And I am going to be talking today about another awesome game that you gotta be checking out. But first, we're going to be talking about classic gaming, our inspirations for all the different games that are in our life. But first, I want to say thank you, Agustin, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be for the first time here with your audience in Obsolete Gamer.
Great. Now we're going to be talking about the game that you have up on Kickstarter, and but first, I would just want to get your background as far as gaming, because a lot of the times, what inspires people to get into gaming is, what they came up as far as games, what had their influences, what they were playing as they were coming up. So what was some of the games that you played, in your days when you were growing up that kind of influenced you?
It's very easy to pinpoint the exact, turning point, the inspirational turning point in my life. I always loved games. I grew up with Space Invaders, Saxon, Jumpman, and I really liked them as an entertainment. But it was when I played King's Quest for the first time that I realized that I wanted to make a game like that. I mean, that experience of exploring this virtual land and solving mysteries and puzzles and this quest by the king. I loved books at the time, and King's Quest for me was, it felt like an interactive book. So from that moment, I knew that someday I wanted to do things like that. Eventually, I played many other Sierra games, Space Quest, of course, it's actually my favorite game series. LucasArts, but then, because I'm specializing in horror, some very influential titles for me when it comes to games have been, I would say, Alone in the Dark, Dark Seed, The Seventh Guest, The Dark Eye, always adventure games.
Wow, I mean that's quite a lineup right there. Is overall, would you say that there was one classic game overall that you would say is your favorite?
That's an extremely difficult question. I would have to say, when it comes to adventure games, it's very difficult to pick just one. I mean, it's impossible. Probably, if you held at gunpoint, I would have to say Space Quest 3, maybe. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow I have another answer. But when it comes to non-adventure games, it's easier. I would have to say Fallout. It's the game I have replayed the most besides adventure games. I'm a big fan of Wasteland as well.
Is there any game that really just got you afraid? Because it's like a lot of games nowadays, they try to get you with cheap tricks, and that was one of the things that was interesting about your game. We're going to talk about in just a moment. H.P. Lovecraft, the case of Charles Dexter Warren, was that you talked about not just going for the cheap scare. Was there a game that you played, especially growing up, that was just generally scary as you were playing it, that you were just like, oh my goodness, this is really getting to me?
Yes, well, there's cheap scares sometimes work when they are, very far and in between, and they happen at the exact moment, and you don't repeat them. For me, a memorable moment in horror games occurred in Alone in the Dark, and it does qualify as a cheap scare, but because no other game had done it before, I still hold it as perhaps the scariest moment in my experience with games. And it involved a room. You enter this room, the door shuts, behind you, shuts closed behind you, and then when you're about to leave, this zombie enters the room. It was just perfectly staged. Besides that one, I would have to say The Dark Eye is the game that has really disturbed me. There's a moment you know, it's an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's tales, and at one point in the game, the protagonist starts to hallucinate, and you see teeth popping on the screen. You know, it's a very disturbing moment in the game. That we can qualify as really scary as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that's the thing that really gets me is when you have that building horror, and you saw that even in movies where you had that aspect of that change of the guard in movies, like when you had the grunge and you had those movies, some of that you pulled from Japan, or even with Blair Witch, even though some people panned it, but it made a lot of money because you had that is it real, is it not aspect. And of course, with novels, you had that for a long time, and that's moving over to our main topic with the video gamer profile. We're talking about H.P. Lovecraft, the case of Charles Dexter Ward.
Well, I talked a bit about my influences in games. Of course, Lovecraft is my favorite writer, and it's the writer that has influenced what I do the most. I think he's a master of atmosphere. What he achieved in his stories, it's just fantastic. You could almost feel these environments around you, be it a very creepy forest with immemorial secrets, or the Antarctic, or in the case of the Charles Dexter Ward, for example, Providence and Salem, where this student called Charles, he becomes obsessed with the occult arts because an ancestor of him is rumored to be a warlock, you know. And what Charles does in the story, he becomes so obsessed that he decides to bring back this Joseph Curwen warlock from the dead. It's a fascinating story because it's on one hand, it's a sort of biography of Lovecraft's life in Providence. This is Many agree that Charles Dexter Ward is, for the most part, an alter ego of Lovecraft. But then, you know, just as Lovecraft loved Providence, he loved his hometown, and he paints it as a very idyllic place. But little by little, the horror starts to creep in the story, and suddenly Charles goes to Salem and starts exploring creepy cemeteries, trying to locate Curwen's essential salt, which is what is needed to bring him back from the dead. And the game is, yes, like you say, quite traditional, even more traditional than the other game that we are making, Asylum, which is a first-person adventure game. Just naturally, I would say, because my goal was to quite faithfully adapt Lovecraft's novel. Just very naturally, the game became a sort of LucasArts adventure. And I know it's quite contradictory to say. I mean, you don't associate LucasArts with horror in general, but the game feels good. I mean, it's just the first part involves this whole research and exploration that Charles does in Providence and Salem. Sorry, I always pronounce Salem the wrong way. And then suddenly, when he unearths these horrors lurking underground, the game takes a huge turn, and it becomes quite horrific. But as you said as well, we are focusing on a very intellectual type of horror, where it's more important what you can't see. I mean, it's a horror that works inside your head, not just defending yourself from creatures or running. It's supposed to be supernatural horror.
And in fact, it's not even. It's a game that says that there's no weapons and no death. So, can you explain like a little bit of how that works in building a horror? Because I have seen that. You have there's even some games and in film where that is what gives such the suspense and the horror that you don't have that. But how do you translate that to a game, especially where maybe people are so used to having that weapon or having the death as that fear factor,
Yeah,
that risk?
I know. The best way to explain it for me is referring to my first game, Scratches, which was similarly very inspired by Lovecraft. You take the role of a writer that travels to this Victorian mansion to finish his book, and literally, you can read the reviews, literally nothing ever happens in the game. Some people didn't like it, of course, because it's an atypical type of horror. But I would say that the majority, that there are many fans of Scratches, they love the game precisely because of that. Because you couldn't exactly, locate the source of the fear, but you were always, just wondering what would happen next, what was around that corner. Again, the horror happened inside your head. You can die in Scratches, there are no weapons, you don't have to run, you just have to little by little uncover this mystery inside the Black Room Manor. And there is some very scary sequences, They could even qualify as jump scares, but again, they occur, you can count them with the fingers of one hand. They are very, very specific. And because the game is constant, build up, and then bam, we hit you with the scare scene. It's extremely effective. Some players, sure, they complain that there weren't any enemies in Scratches. It's not the point of the game, and it's not the point of the game in Charles Dexter world. It's about a story, about how you fit in that story, and the surprises that we have in store for you.
And I love like the visuals. I was looking at the images, the artwork. It gives you, all the looks, and you can just picture it with the music and the immersion, and then you have the occult, like you said, the supernatural. It all goes together. So you mix that. Together with the adventure, and you're searching through, and anyone who likes those type of point and click adventures, I mean, that's just something that you have to get into, and it's on Steam Greenlight. It's cool that you guys are offering a 100% DRM free version, and you guys have already had great games in the past. You as far as your team with that you have, is most of the people at work, are they fans of the point and click adventure, or do you have like a lot of people that are classic gaming fans that play games like you've mentioned before, like the Fallout, things like that?
Sorry, you mean if we have fans outside the adventure gaming community?
Yeah,
I didn't
like
understand.
the fans of classic gaming that work with you.
I mean, yes. I mean, of course, we it mostly appeals to fans of adventure games, but I have seen that in the case of Scratches and also Serena, which we launched earlier this year. It's a short and free game. I noticed that just about any kind of player enjoyed it, just not specifically fans of point-and-click adventure games. I think this genre is becoming more and more universal these days, so that any player that wants to enjoy a more cerebral and slow-paced gameplay will enjoy it just as much as any hardcore adventure gamer.
So as far as overall your goal is for what you want to accomplish with the game is of course making sure that you stay true to the to the book and as far as getting the the feel of horror. Is there any other goals that you would say besides those two that you want to bring to the game?
Uh, I mean, of course, yes, the primary goal is to bring as faithfully as possible Lovecraft novel into the interactive format. But we want to ensure, as you were saying, the quality of the graphics, a consistent quality of the graphics across all the game. Lovecraft was very was careful to create this tangible atmosphere. We want to make sure that that sort of atmosphere is present in the game. And I mean, yes, we are requiring this budget because we want to, have a reasonably lengthy adventure game as well, from 10, yes, around 10 hours of gameplay, which is, quite generous. So, I mean, yes, this is the exact game that we have in mind. We want to make it, we want to make it perfect. So it may seem like a high goal, but it's if we don't achieve this money, we wouldn't make this game because I wouldn't feel that it would make justice to the source material.
Excellent. Well, I really do hope you guys do get the funding because, we do need games like this. There's a lot of games out there that, that you just put together, a HUD and someone shooting, and there's too much of that. I mean, games like this, you look at it where you have those storybook immersion, you have the horror element, you have the point and click classic style that you don't see a lot of, and it's up there on Kickstarter right now. You guys should go over to it. We're going to put the links up on ObsoleteGamer.com. There's a lot of gifts that you get for the different pledges. You get the audio, a soundtrack, T-shirt, things like that. So you guys should go over there and support this game because there's a lot of great games out there. I hear people complaining all the time, oh, there's not good games to play. Well, this is a good game to play, and you guys got to support it so this stuff gets made. But I'm glad, Agustin, that you're going to push this game through no matter what happens, but we're going to try and make sure that it happens.
Thank you very much for the support, and yes, we will just keep fighting because, I mean, so far people have been thrilled with with the concept of the game. They like it. Yes, we need some help on Kickstarter. So the support is very, very much appreciated. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to make sure that once this is out there, that we're going to be back and we're going to have more from this, and we're going to have Agustin back to talk about how this was successful, and we're going to have more information on this game. But until next time, thank you, Agustin, for coming on and talking with us on Gamer Profiles.
Thank you again.